Lions fans, welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 462. This is the Detroit Lions draft starts here, and it's the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit, which we'll learn more about. There's one. What's going on? I am your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my, I can't say equally, he is even surpassingly dashing co-host and good friend, Jeff the Riz Risen. How you doing, brother?
Chris, it is good to be with you. It's very late for me, so we're gonna try this. I'm usually in bed by at least an hour by now. I'm someone who gets up. I'm up by 4 every day. So yeah, let's have some fun with this tonight.
Let's do this. Yeah, I got in 2 a.m. I got home last night, and then it took me an hour to fall asleep. So I'm still kind of in that open zone. We are friends, and we wouldn't be able to travel together like we do if we weren't. So we'll talk about that. Got a lot coming up. Today, we're going to talk about the Senior Bowl. We're going to provide you a preview. We're going to talk about Kalif Raymond hitting some of his bonus targets. We'll talk a little bit about wide receivers. Also, we are going to talk about Jonah Jackson. He wants to say, and we'll tell you how much. A little bit of mock draft projections talk. What is ChrisDust? What can we share? And a whole lot more. We got a great show lined up. Riz, are you ready to go, my man?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right.
I was supposed to be off camera. Sorry. You caught me drinking.
All right, let's really quick want to thank everybody. Ross Snuggerud. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for the subscription. Subscribe to the show, please. Also hit the like button while you're here. It's easy. We got a Friday night fun time for you guys, a lot to talk about. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the like button. We appreciate when you do that for all you YouTube friends watching us here. All right, let's get into it. Did you know the Senior Bowl's coming up, Riz?
I do know that it's coming up. I'm anxiously awaiting. This is, I want to say it's number 15, but I think it's 14 because I missed a year. So I think this is my 14th Senior Bowl, which is,
this is 5 for me.
I think so. I've been there every time with you. I think our first one was what, 20? I missed 2018. I think we've been there every year since.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
2018 was the year that I missed. So.
Good times. It's something. Senior Bowl is something special, and
it really is.
It's one of the few, maybe the only thing left where you can get really strong access, close access to the teams, and NFL royalty is the only way I can really kind of put that out there. It doesn't happen. There's always a security line, a bubble between you and the people, and here. I mean, you can shake Belichick's hand. You've seen me pictures with Lions staff and coaches from along the way. It's really awesome to be able to be down in there in the pit with these people and touch them. I mean, Jerry Jones bought a drink for you one time. I mean, it's crazy how close.
Gets up at the bar. Jerry stands up at the bar at Veets, if you're familiar with Mobile. Stands up, puts his credit card up in the air, hands it to the bartender, says, "Everybody gets one." He bought a round for the entire bar. There's probably 350 of us in there.
Yeah.
And to our credit, we only we took Jerry at his word. That's the kind of fun stuff, like last year, one of the things that happened, it was torrential rain. A lot of days, but the first day that it was super rainy, I happened to see Browns GM Andrew Berry sitting by himself on the side with an umbrella over his head. I went up and I sat down and I talked to him and introduced myself to him and wound up having a good, 5 to 10 minute conversation with him. Like, you can't do that anywhere else.
No,
Mobile is great for that. You can, we run into coaches when we're out and about at night. We have run into players. We've run into agents all the time.
Yeah.
National media is everywhere. But the coolest thing is that you do get access to the scouts. It's, the hotel you stay in specifically, Chris, is crawling with scouts. I have shared elevators there with GMs, with scouts, with scouting directors, including the guy who just left the Lions, Dave Sears, once upon a time, who's now with the Cardinals as their assistant general manager. And by the way, good for Dave. That guy had been in Detroit since 2007. He's finally climbing the ladder. He'll be missed, but it's a really cool opportunity, and he had to take it. So that's your only little attrition so far. But yeah, you just run into guys like that. We're sitting in Wet Willie's in the front window, and George Foster walks by.
Yeah.
Just, "What's up, boys?" Just random occurrences like that.
last year,
It's
Colin
just
was
so
out
much fun,
late,
man.
and a bunch of the Lions staff. He partied with them. I mean, it was because they were there coaching the whole thing. It's a very special place, and some people. Whatever it's, I mean, because it's hard to get there, right? Everyone goes through Atlanta to get there. If
It's a
and
pain in the butt.
it is, and the thing is you got to work for it to be able to get that a little bit, right? And I don't know that that's hard work or anything, but the media, especially big media, isn't used to that kind of thing. They're used to the front of the plane everywhere they. I mean, I kind of am too, but they're used to the front of the plane everywhere they go, not the little jobs, and it's one of the things that I think it's not going to last too much longer. Unfortunately, in Mobile,
It's already changed some. I
Yep,
mean, the new stadium is fantastic, and they needed to move it because Lad Peebles was a crap hole. It was a shrine to concrete and aluminum,
yep,
and thank God it's gone. It wasn't in the best neighborhood either. Like the stadium that's out at USA, is it Hancock Stadium?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
Hancock Whitney.
beautiful new facility.
Absolutely.
The campus, while it's a circuitous route to get there, and you have to drive through like a wild goose reserve. And Chris will verify. I'm not kidding on that. Like you literally drive through a wild goose reserve. It's really cool, and you do get access. They do try to keep the top level NFL cognoscenti sequestered, but a lot of those guys don't like that. Quite frankly,
And it's
they just want to
hard.
hang out with us.
And they can,
Yeah.
if they're in town, like you see the players, like they do little tours through town. They stop in. I forget the name of the one bar that was built into that church. If you remember, they had an event there.
Yep.
You can intermingle. I mean, you can see so much. It's really just such an incredibly great thing, and I fear that it's going to go away. I love the way it is, but if it were to show up like in Miami or it's good, that will absolutely change
It
the
would
face
not
of
be
it.
the same.
I know
It really
yeah
wouldn't. And and the access that we get, like we go out and you'll go to a restaurant and it will be all NFL people. I remember the first time I flew in, Tom Dimitroff sat across from me on the airplane, and Brad Childress was the Vikings coach at the time, was sitting directly in front of me. Sitting next to me, former Ohio State coach at the time of Bengals scouting consultant John Cooper. I talked to John Cooper for 45 minutes, and he wanted to talk to me. Like it was phenomenal. Made contacts out of that. I still talk to Coach every now and then. I'm like, if this plane goes down, I'm literally the last person that anybody's going to give a crap about that died. Like everybody else is important, and then there's me, this schlub that's like, hey,
You're not
what's
kidding.
he doing here?
Last year, I was on a plane with Malik Willis. We talked to him a little bit.
Yeah.
And on the plane with Daniel Bellinger, and who we interviewed later, and we got to talk to him at Atlanta Airport. Really good kid. I love that guy. It was great to see him play with the Giants and
He had a good
do
season.
so well. Even though the injury, the whole thing, he's a good guy. But just hanging out with these guys. The year before last, Jim Caldwell. I flew in with Jim Caldwell on the plane. You just run into these people. It's incredible. It's such a great time, and I don't understand why people would avoid it, other than it's a little bit of work to get there. But it's if you like football and you like getting stories and meeting people and building your network. I mean, even amongst the media, there is no better place. It's work all day, and then 7:30. Party all night. The switch flips, and it's everyone's, and it's
it really does.
Mardi Gras started
it's
there.
Cool because Mardi Gras is going on, and they've moved it back a week, so Mardi Gras is going a little bit more in full force this time, which is kind of fun. It's a great experience. If you can ever get there and you're a football fan and you want access to people that you don't normally have access to, it is the best place to go. I go to the combine every year. This will be my 19th combine that I'm going to in Indy. And you get access to people there, but it's different. It's much more formal. It's much more segmented. Mobile, man, you can. It's just there's too many stories to go into, and we will make more stories this year, and it's great. I'm flying in just to give you an idea of how hard it is to get to Mobile because their airport is tough. I live in Grand Rapids. I fly from Grand Rapids to New Orleans via Orlando. Rent a car, drive from New Orleans to Mobile, which is about an hour and 40 minutes. And you can fly through Mississippi because they really don't care. And then I gotta drive through town, park. The hotel I stay at the same hotel every year now. It's in stumbling distance of pretty much everywhere I need to be except the stadium. And so my son, I will be gone. I will be on the road traveling Sunday from 11:30 a.m. I'll get to the airport, and I will be in Mobile by about 1 a.m. the next day. Like it is a chore to get there, but it's worth it. And I look forward to it every year. It's aside from the fact, I just spent time with Chris and Andy, Sandman coming in and seeing all my draft media friends. I see my wire editor coworkers. There's quite a few of us that are going down there, and we will drag some of them in, by the way, including Vikings wire editor Tyler Forno, who wants to talk about TJ Hockenson on air with us.
Great.
And he's a good dude. He's got great hair, so we will certainly get him on. He will be one of them. Brian Perez, for those of you who know who he is, he's been a voice for the Bears for a very long time. You might know him. He was the guy who was the founder and owner of Draft Breakdown, where I worked for 2 draft cycles. He's going to come on with us. So we got a ton of people with different perspectives from inside the NFC North. No Packers people, though. I'm drawing the line there. Yeah. But we're going to have so many good guests for you. So many just like little quick hit things that are going on. I'm excited for it, man. I've been waiting for it for a long time. It's going to be so much fun.
Never a more important time to be subscribed and hit the bell, because, and I'll kind of talk through what the coverage, right? We are on the move all day. Well, here, really quick, just so we can close out the travel piece. I'm taking the little easier ride. I'm going from Tampa to Atlanta and Atlanta to Mobile, but there's no direct flights. So it's a little shit box that flies to Mobile from Atlanta. It's
it's like a 30-seat plane. There's 2 on one side and 1 on the other.
Yeah,
and every time I've done that flight,
they're small seats. I can't believe football players ride in there. Anyway, so that's how I'm doing it. But here's our coverage, right? We're gonna have. There's been a little bit of changes in personnel, just from some sickness and some other things. In Mobile, it's gonna be Jeff, myself, and Sandman. We will be on the ground and on the move. Just so you know, the day starts. I mean, we are at the convention center at 8 a.m. set up, ready to interview. There's all kinds of events. There's breakfast, there's players, there's coach interviews, the whole thing that goes through. So people will be cycling through, and then we get ready to pack up. We pack up and head all the way over to the practice facility, and we'll be doing coverage from there. Again, you're going to want to watch our YouTube. You're going to see all kinds of stuff popping up while practice is going on from us. So we're going to have our coverage from the practice itself. Practices wind up, first it's one or the other, American, and then the national team goes. And there's a little break in between. Practices wind up, we back up, we head over to the mobile convention center again, set back up, same kind of thing, interviews and so on, and then we'll do our closeout every day. So we'll do an open every morning, a close every day, and all kinds of interviews in between. And then we get back, we eat dinner about 7:30. The work stops. The fun begins, and it goes till whenever, and then we start again. Crack of dawn the next day. It is one of the most fun working and playing events. I can't even explain how.
When I get home, I'm completely exhausted. Like I need 2 days to recover, just because, like again, as I said earlier, I'm in bed by now, like 6 days out of 7. 24 days out of the month, and I'm going to be like I will be like we might be at a Waffle House at this time 3 days from now.
Yeah,
which it happens. One of the things that I do, because I like to give back, because not everybody has access to Waffle Houses. As an example, we don't have any here in Michigan at all. Mm-hmm. So anybody who has never been to a Waffle House before, I take them there and I buy it for them. And we've had some very interesting people that I have taken to Waffle House for the very first time in their life. It's the southern waitresses. It's Mobile. It's down south. It's way down south.
Yep.
And when I went there, I won't say who it is, but it's a NFL draft and fantasy football person. Great guy, by the way, who is a homosexual New York Jew and doesn't hide any of that. He had a blast, and the waitresses were like, "Oh, honey, you're not from here, are you?" We had so much. Oh God, that was so much fun. He still talks about that too. Like it was a great time. But yeah, that's what we're going to be going for. And Smoothie King every day, because I don't get that here either. West Michigan got to step up with the Smoothie King, this man. Oh, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to going down. I've been watching. I have not been as active on social media in the last couple of weeks because I have been binging on these players, getting ready, so I at least have some baseline familiarity with what I'm going to be watching. And I have seen every player but two, at least 2 games played now, and I'm proud of that.
All right, really quick, we got a couple questions. First one was from Combat Sack. Do we know which players are at the Senior Bowl? Yes, sir, we do. Now, here's the funny part. That continues to change and add like right up until the Senior Bowl. And I was just doing some work while I was waiting for Riz, updating my thing. I take a lot of big boards. I compare it against the roster, the ever-changing roster, and the ever-changing big boards, and I blend them together, and I look at where these guys are projected, and I focus top to bottom on my research on where they're projected and who I'm looking at, who I'm researching to really get ready for the Senior Bowl. Every year, this is what I do, and it's a great run. It's a lot of fun.
It is. So one of the things that happened, players change and drop out all the time. 2 guys that we're going to talk about later in the mock draft segment, Tyree Wilson and Devon Witherspoon, both pulled out. Yep. Wilson is hurt, which may or may not help his draft stock as it pertains to the Lions. We'll see about that. Insert joke here. Witherspoon had absolutely nothing to prove. He has skyrocketed the more people have watched him. And there's a conversation to be had about that, about, guys at this time generally rise because people like me are like, we haven't seen him play yet. And like, oh crap, this guy's really good. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that's going on with that.
Really quick, this guy named the Duke is getting mouthy in the chat, and I know he's waiting for a comeback, but if he wants my comeback, he's going to have to scrape his mother's tongue. See you later, buddy. Have a lot of fun.
Y'all don't cross Chris, man. Don't crisscross. Applesauce, bitch.
I don't like, people like that. I'm telling you, man. All right, let's get into this. So, a lot of players. Let's start position wise, Riz. What are you specifically looking for in the Senior Bowl this year?
So I like I do position, 1 day
position.
Right? I do next. Position wise, first day they're usually not in full pad, so that's the day where I watch wide receivers and defensive backs, and I watch the quarterbacks, and they generally will do coverage drills with running backs and linebackers and tight ends at that time too. That's the day for that. Day 2 is the pit. I will be in the end zone in front of the offensive line versus defensive line, knowing the coaches that are going to be there and the way that they want it structured. It's 1-on-1s, it's 2-on-1s, it's 5-on-4s, that type of thing. It's fantastic. It is, and then and there's also team drills every day. And then the last day is typically, I'll just float around and look at guys that maybe I haven't seen yet, or guys that have impressed me. That's how I do it. I know you do it a little bit differently. You tend to, you tend to watch the opposite of what I do on a day, which is good because that gives us a broader base of coverage. And Sandman will do the same thing too.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing. I kind of go in looking at players that fall kind of into the spots for the Lions. That's where I kind of start. I always wind up with some kind of love for a wide receiver. I've got a type, and they always wind up showing up, and it's kind of funny, but it's just the way things wind up for me. So that's one of the things that I tend to do. I'm really looking at inside defensive line. I'm looking at cornerback this year. I'm looking at safety, like really secondary positions. I'll tweak around. It's really focused on defense for me. I will, of course, watch the wide receivers and the quarterbacks you can't miss, but I really don't believe I need to scout them so deeply this year, the quarterbacks, and I know that's a point of discussion, whatever, but
I would disagree.
Yeah. I know
especially a couple of them in specific.
Yeah.
And you'll pick up pretty quickly on who those are. If you're watching our coverage. One of the other things that we do is every Lions scout will be there. Brad Holmes will be there for, I believe, 2 days is what I've been told. Ray Agnew and John Dorsey will be there the entire week. I don't think any of the coaches are going, with the possible exception of one defensive assistant, and that's not Sean John Hamilton, who is going to be coaching the American defensive backs. Right. But I don't think Dan's going to be there. I don't think Hank is going to be there. Hank Fraley is going to be there. I don't think Kelvin Shepard is going to be there. They might, but I'm not anticipating seeing the coaches there this year, but the scouting staff is absolutely there, and I know what hotel they stay in.
Have you checked out Spears from Tulane? Anything on that? We're getting a question from Don.
Spear, Tulane. Oh, the
Running back.
he's the the running. Okay, so they have a running back and they have a linebacker who used to be a safety, who's not all that. I actually wrote about him. Yes, he is very good. This is an incredible running back class.
Yep.
I am not gotten deep into them at all. And I'm going, I don't even remember the names because I'm too tired to remember. The dude from Syracuse is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, Devin Achane from Texas A&M, he's tiny. He is what you all want DeAndre Swift to be. And I will bang the drum for him any day as a third or fourth round pick. He's only like 5'7", $175, but dude can fly and he gets vertical. Like he does not waste time. He gets the ball and he goes.
Yeah.
There's a ton of good running backs this year. This is a great year to need a day 2, day 3 running back. And guess what? The Lions need that.
Ta-da!
Funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, yeah, no, I'm really positionally scouting. I hate that the weigh-in has kind of been done away with, because that for me was such an important part, because it played itself out so much with how to prejudge players before they got in the field. There was something about, especially at specific positions, you want to see the guys that were kind of going to sleep a little and not really quite up to maybe what they looked like. You look at how hard they worked that body. It really was an indicator of what kind of juice they had for the game and that love of the game.
Yep.
That was such a good part of the event. It was weird and awkward, but it was absolutely fantastic.
It was.
So
That did lead to some like do you remember Cornelius Washington, who had a cup of coffee with the Lions? That guy, when he walked up on the stage, everybody was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like that's the guy that everybody at the gym wants to be. But he couldn't play a lick of football, but it got him drafted. So, but I miss that too. I love doing the comparative body types. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen are the best for it. Because you can tell the guys that are like country strong versus the guys that are weight room strong. And there's a difference. And if you play, you can tell the guys that took it seriously. You can tell the guys that are just like, I'm here because my agent wants me to be here and it might help me get drafted. I don't know. And there is that. Like, that's definitely a thing. That's why one of the things that I've learned in my years there, you can't put too much stock in what you see.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put some into it. And like one of the things, if you know who LaCharles Bentley is, former NFL All-Pro center for the Cleveland Browns, I stood with him in Lad Peoples. This was I think this was the last year before you were there. So it would have been like 2017. And I stood with him for an entire practice. And Pete Smith, who covers the Browns for Sports Illustrated, was standing next to me, and we just got lessons because I was complaining about one of the guys who he was training. He is the founder of the O-Line Masterminds. If you go on Twitter, they're everywhere. They do fantastic work. But he told me, like, so you want him to do this? Well, this is how we coach him. He's doing what I want him to do as his private coach. I don't care what this guy who's coaching him for 3 days says. I want him to do what I'm doing. And I took that down, and he was polite about it, but he was very firm about it. And I like mental check, like, okay, maybe he's not doing well because that's not what he's being trained for. And you have to keep that in mind too. That happens technique wise with cornerbacks a lot. And one of the guys that you're going to watch this year, and I'll throw the name out there, is Julius Brents from Kansas State. It's the guy that the Lions have looked at a little bit. He's 6'4", maybe, over 200 pounds, probably. But he is a straight zone quarter. Like there's no doubt about it. So when he's going to get out there in man coverage, he's probably going to get torched. If he can't get his hands on a guy, he can press some, but he just doesn't have the long speed to come up with that. But that's the kind of guy that you're going to watch and like, okay, he's probably never been taught to do this specific skill before. And he might struggle with that. And we saw James Houston is a great example of it, when he got into Detroit, they wanted him to do things with his hands and his hips and his shoulders specifically that he'd never been coached to do. Not at Florida, not at Jackson State. It's different in Detroit. And it took him a little bit of time to get it. But damn, he got it.
Yeah, he did.
So that's why I used to move people really like heavily based on what I saw at the Super Bowl. I do a lot less of that now. You got to learn.
Really quick, Extreme Gaming. Here's a question. I'm gonna knock this one more time, one last time. We've answered this like literally like 10 times in the last year. Didn't you guys say around the draft you thought that it would be the last year for Dorsey in Detroit? No, I didn't say that. Said that there is a conflict about what they wanted to do with the first pick in the draft, and if they didn't go the way that Dorsey wanted, he was going to be unhappy enough to leave. And that was the question, and that is what we said.
And they did not make that decision.
They did not make the decision. We've said this 100 times. I don't know why people keep bringing that one up, but don't talk about the Ben Johnson news that he got hired or that he stayed or anything like that. But
the angle from it is that John Dorsey felt strongly enough that they needed to get Aiden Hutchinson and they needed specifically to avoid one other player, that he was willing to leave for it. And that tells you the conviction that they have in the communication process that they have. And it's a healthy discussion because it wasn't necessarily who was going to be chosen. Now, I will tell you that everybody is in unison now that we all loved Hutch the whole time. But there might have been...
It's a little bit of a kind of hang a good one on Dorsey here, because it kind of leans you into this is a guy that he wanted, and it was absolutely a great pick.
Yeah.
As for quarterbacks, not so sure about his judgment yet. But when it comes to that second round pick and an edge guy like Hutchinson, I'll take Dorsey's thinking all day.
I like John Dorsey he's a guy that you don't want to get into a verbal argument with because he is stubborn as bleep. And he stood up, he banged the table is what happened. And the table went his way.
Yep.
And so there was no need for him to, screw this, I'm taking my ball and going home. Wasn't any need for it. So that was the entire crux of that situation.
Yeah. So that was that. No big deal. We'll talk a little bit about insider info, and I've got a good one this time that the people that want to talk about lucky guesses, just wait. This is a good plan, Riz.
Oh, I know this one.
It's good. It's good.
So I will tell you, Chris, I'll spring this to you on the air. The dust that you gave me personally, I relayed to Huge yesterday. I was on the Huge show, I was in the studio the whole time. So I told him, you can't say anything about this, but just watch this specific thing to happen. And Huge was all about it. So we've got some validation there too. And I did let him know that it was you, not me, that knew it too.
Well, thanks, Rizzy. I like Huge. I'd love to talk with him sometime.
Huge is a fun guy. I was in there yesterday for 3 hours with him and Eric Zane, and that was an experience because I didn't know Eric Zane at all. And if you're from West Michigan, you know who Eric Zane is. It was fun, man. It was pretty darn cool. Yeah, it was something else. I loved it.
So we've got a lot of coverage again. It's the most important time of the year to be subscribed and hit the bell, because we'll get like last year when we interviewed Hank Fraley or Dave Phipp or all the guys that we interviewed from the Lions as coaches there. We got 10 minutes notice. 10 minutes notice, man, and it was the interviews live. We have to set it up,
like Phipp
thumbnails and all
Phipp
that
just
stuff.
Materialized.
Yeah. So we don't really get an opportunity to say, hey everyone, we're coming, get ready and all that. It just sort of happens. So if you get the bell, you'll know we'll be live and you'll see it. So that's the coverage on the ground. And then we have Scott Bischoff and Ash Thompson also providing additional coverage. Not there, but we have access to a bunch of video, a bunch of other things that we'll be feeding them, and they'll be doing additional coverage and content for us as well to supplement all the totality of what we're doing. It's going to be the best coverage in Detroit media for the Senior Bowl for sure. Most of the guys aren't even going to be there, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So
I don't actually know who's going this year or not. I haven't been in contact with those guys since like the day after Week 18 ended.
Yep.
Yeah, I tend to, like, this time of year, I tend to do my own thing. I don't want to get influenced by other people. I want to evaluate that on my own, come up with the ideas on my own. And by the way, Eric Schlitt does kind of the same thing. At least he used to when we worked together. We would not talk like for 2 or 3 weeks just so we could like formulate our own opinions on our own and not influence
and then test them and then test them and argue them. right?
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
lot of that happens at Senior Bowl. It's a lot. I enjoy the heck out of it because I get insights that I didn't have beforehand, and I share insights that people didn't have beforehand, and it's a real good kind of leveling and go look at this, go look at this. Oh my God, I didn't see that, right? It's a really, really good opportunity to, and I think that's a little bit why there's a little bit of a kind of consensus amongst a lot of the draft, mock drafts and stuff that get built out because a lot of, look at this, oh, look at this. And there's a lot of people sharing the things that they found and bringing it together. And you build this kind of pool of information that people are all kind of sort of drawing from. So on one hand, it's great to be beating your own drum from the end of the season to draft day, right? But by the same token, a lot of times you wind out in left field and you miss a lot of things. But by the other side of the coin is you kind of get pulled into the whirlpool a little bit. So it's hard to find the right stuff and assess the right stuff that isn't as necessarily biased or pushing you in one direction, and also beat your own drum and follow your own tune. It's a lot of fun year after year. I've learned more and more along the way, and we're from Riz, and kind of now Riz and I are a little different in the way we do it. And that's one of the things you'll see, like some of the voices on our YouTube channel. It's all different voices because we don't want you just to have a consensus mindset or a hive mind or a cult approach to to football and coverage. So we're going to disagree with you, and someone else, I guarantee, is going to agree with you, right? It's going to be, there's just different voices, different opinions, and it's the idea of not creating that whirlpool where everything winds up at the same.
Yeah, and it's not right or wrong. It's information, and you can choose which way you want to go on it.
Yep. Is Scott Bischoff participating in the off-season coverage? Absolutely. A lot will happen.
Yeah, he is.
He sent me something tonight. I'm probably going to put up tomorrow, maybe on Sunday, and he's going to cover, both him and Ash, tons of stuff throughout the week, especially and throughout the offseason, not just Senior Bowl week. We're a team. Scott's part of the DLP team, the Detroit Lions podcast team, and Ash and Sandman. We're all here. We'll all be creating content. We're getting ready to put together, after Senior Bowl, a mostly weekly show where we rotate through our guests, where we're going to talk about the draft and players and a lot of stuff. And we're really going to focus on that. And then we'll still do our weekly podcast that's based more on Lions news and what's going on there. So I think we're going to have a really good kind of pairing of coverage for folks. Now that we've said it out loud, probably some other folks will try to do it too. But, it's it's the way it works. We'll have good stuff for you, and we'll give you what you need throughout the entirety of the season. All right. Who's most informed?
Ice cube stuck in my tooth.
A lot of times isn't just the information, it's who's the most informed and has the more accurate information. Yeah. Like, and again, I know people don't like it but the Ben Johnson thing, I had that for months. And then people try to say, oh, well, Sean Payton's getting the job, that's why Ben, no.
And that was spin from that, and I told you, Chris, I told you this. I said it on the air. The first spin you're going to hear is, it's from the Carolina side. It's not from anything Detroit related. They want to save face that Sean Payton's going to come as he was the next logical candidate. Well, they hired Frank Reich. By the way, Frank Reich is a very good hire for them.
Yeah,
and it's a big but. Steve Wilks should have had that job, man.
110% Wilks should have had that job, and it's frustrating to me for Wilks.
That bothers me. And I think that Frank Reich is a fantastic hire for them. I really do. But that's Steve Wilks' job, and that pisses me off a little bit that he didn't get it.
Yep. AG getting a second interview in Arizona. There's still potential. We'll see where Wilks lands, but I wouldn't put it completely out of the universe of possibility that Wilks comes here as a DC. I absolutely wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't put it over 50%, but it's certainly in the realm of potential possibility. And I really think he would be great here. I think he would be awesome.
And AG does have a shot at that Arizona job.
Yeah.
He is one of, I think, 4 that have taken a second interview. D'Amico Ryans is one of the others. Everything I've heard is that it's Houston or bust for him. And it might be a case where he might stay with San Francisco because he just doesn't like Houston's ownership. And remember, that's the team he played for. He knows them very well. So yeah, that's one to watch. The Colts job, we'll just quick around the NFL here. It sounds like everybody thinks that the owner really wants Jeff Saturday. And so all the other candidates are like, well, if the owner doesn't really want me, why am I going here?
Why bother?
Aside from the fact that it's the beginning of a rebuild, Like that team, their window closed. It damn closed shut, man. They're in a tough spot. But
here's the funny part.
They get their quarterback, they could be okay.
I don't think this will happen. But do you remember when San Francisco named John Lynch their GM? I don't know where you were, but I was laughing. I thought that was a hilarious hire. I thought, wow, what a mistake, right? And I've eaten my hat 10 times, 20 times over that take because he's turned into an amazing GM for that organization.
And you know what he does that the Lions do very well? They identify players that fit the culture and the style that they want.
Yep.
They're going to eschew more talented players because they're not 49ers. You're seeing that come on already with the Lions. There were a couple of opportunities last year for them to take a guy who was a better overall talent than the player that they wound up taking. Nick Cross over Kirby Joseph is a good example. Kirby Joseph is a perfect Lion.
Yeah.
Like that's you got to have that, and they've earned that level of faith and respect for the choices that they've made like that. Like Nick Cross, I had him higher on my board than I had Kirby Joseph, but they saw in Kirby that he fits the team
right
more than he fits the NFL in general, and that's the team specific scouting stuff that this team does very well. John Lynch does a fantastic job of doing that as well. Going back in Lions time, that is something that Martin Mayhew never grasped, and it was his biggest failure, was the fact that he would draft guys just because they were talented with no regard for how well they fit into the team or the team concept structure. And that was a very frustrating time because, again, he got very good players, but they don't fit together. Like you hear it all the time, the cut from the cloth. You're going to know, and they have a very good idea of knowing who's cut from that cloth, which seamstress is good, and when they get those bad seamstress blues and let them pass on to somebody else who's going to jump and make mistakes, like New York does.
Yep.
The Jets, I should say. Jets, although the Jets do have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, they had a pretty damn good draft too.
All right, we'll get on to the next one, and I will share there is some ChrisDust, as we call it in the Slack at the end, some little bit insider stuff for you guys. It was an absolute dust storm in the Slack this week, and I'll just tell you, if you want to get access to the best off-season conversation, the most intelligent Lions chat in the nation, in the world, and heaping helping of the ChrisDust, the real insider stuff, and RizDust, go to patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Click in there and it'll join up for at least $5 a month. You'll get access to the Slack, and that's where all the deep and dirty happens. A lot of good stuff there. Great group of people, great content, great talk. Sure. Some real smart folks in there who could probably do their own show if they felt like it. Great stuff. Great stuff goes on in that Slack. I highly recommend.
You're not wrong. Seriously, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
There's some talent in there.
Yeah.
There's some smart people in there. And as they know, they can push back on me. And I love that. I hate being an echo chamber, Chris. You know that.
Yeah. Yep.
I hate that.
All right, really quick, let's get into Kalif Raymond. He is in bonus time, baby. He's making some money. Riz, is he ready to retire now?
Well, if I made an extra he made $1,050,000 in bonuses for performances, incentives, escalator clauses. It's awesome. Yeah. And one of them was for being named second team All-Pro. I believe he got $250,000 for that. He got $250,000 for hitting the 600-yard threshold in receiving. He got 616. He got playing time incentives. He got workout bonus escalators, and he got what was another one? There's one other one too that he got, but it wound up making him $1,050,000. Yep. His agent tweeted it out today. I wrote a thing up on it. One thing that I did, and I'm still actually waiting for clarification on, it does count against the salary cap if it's considered a bonus that was not likely to be attained. I don't know the status of all of them, but I do know that the 600 yardage one was one that was not considered to be likely to be attained. So that one is going to cost the Lions on the cap. So they have less cap room now, but they got it. They have less cap room because they got a player who was better than they thought they would be, and that's a happy problem.
Let me ask you, really.
And Kalif is signed through next year too, and will be he was the only NFC player to return a punt for a touchdown this year.
Give me your number 1, number 2, number 3 wide receivers in the Lions team.
Oh, because I fumbled this in the mailbag really bad. badly. Yeah. Thanks. By the way, thanks everybody for watching the mailbag. That was good.
It's great. It was a really good one, Riz. It was a
So
really good one.
Amon Ra is 1. I think JMO is 2. And I think the combination of Josh Reynolds and Kalif are 3 and 4. And it's sort of situational. They're very different types of receivers. Kalif is the outside fly guy, and Reynolds is more the possession type of receiver, intermediate range stuff. And he can work over the middle a little bit too. Kalif doesn't really do that because he's tiny.
Where do you put
I do not.
Chark?
He's not on the team. He's a free agent.
But just pretend he is, because we're looking back at the roster from last year.
He would be 2 because he's over JMO because JMO is not there yet.
Okay, so
Amon Ra is clearly 1.
Do you put Reynolds 3?
I think Kalif was better last year, honestly.
I will tell you he was. Let me tell you something, because this is my point, right? And I thought the same thing, but I went up and I looked it up on PFF, right? And remember, there's 32 teams in the NFL. So your number 1 wide receiver should be ranked within the top 32. Your number 2 should be in 33 through 64-ish, right? I mean, you wanted to be higher, but I mean, just general sense, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely the number 1. He was number 2 in the NFL with a 90.7, right? Absolutely earned his stitches. The number 2 receiver on the Detroit Lions by our PFF ranking was ranked 38th in the NFL. So a solid number 2. And his name is Kalif Raymond. Kalif Raymond. Number 3, DJ Chark at 47th, and then Josh Reynolds at 86th. Jamison didn't have a ranking. Of course, he didn't play that much. He was the lowest ranked of all the wide receivers at 63.4, which is a really solid ranking, really, if you think about it. What a core.
He caught one pass out of 9 targets, and had 1 whiff block that I didn't notice until I rewatched the game. He's just like, oh man, I was supposed to block that guy. you can see the disdain, like, oh crap, missed assignments, man. He was a rookie without a training camp.
Yeah,
he's gonna be better next year, folks. Don't worry about that.
He's gonna be great.
He might not be Tyreek Hill next year. He's going to be the best JMO he can be next year. And I think we saw glimpses enough that we should be very excited about that.
Detroit Fan Man hits a great point here. Instead of 1, 2, and 3, we should use X, Y, and Z to define where they are rather than how many targets. And you're right. I think that's kind of one of the secrets to Ben's offense is there's a number 1 receiver. There's an X, Y, and Z and how they work within schematically across the board. Very nice. Very nice. I just
can go YYZ.
I really love how well Kalif, because he's a little guy, right? He's not 6'1". What is he?
He's 5'7", 180. Now he's short. He's not small.
Right.
Like we've seen him without his shirt on. He's not small. He's just short.
And it's just not, you look at a guy that's short as a wide receiver, you're like, but he did it, and he was clutch for this team so many times. It's really going to be something. Chark isn't on the team right now. I wouldn't sign him as gone yet, but it is definitely, and this is going to be the conversation that's happening with a lot of players. There's 2 things that are happening right now. You're flush at a lot of positions in free agency this year. Okay. And I'll talk about this a little bit. A lot of people want to come to, and a lot of people want to stay in Detroit. And it's how much are you willing to give financially to stay in Detroit? How much are you willing to give to the team? They're not going to beat them up, right? It's not going to be, you take a discount to stay at this nice place, but they are going to be smart with how they spend their money. And they're going to wind up with the people that want to be here the most on the best deals that they can get for those people. I think it's a pretty good strategy because we didn't do that before with our cap. And you saw what that got us, right? And we're just now emerging from the Quinn shadow and able to start doing some things. And this is going to be a key year. It's one thing. This is one of the things. I'm going to take a little jag here, Riz. I'm sorry. I'm looking at. So here's a question I asked, and this is what started my thinking about this. I threw it out there because I like to throw a little taunt into the Slack every now and then. I said, God, imagine if Jared Goff was the quarterback of the 49ers. And of course, people on that one, but they would be a killer team, right? They would be incredible.
They are already, though.
Right. With the last overall draft pick at quarterback, they're winning playoff games, right? Yeah. I look at the talent we have. I look at how hard it is to land a quarterback. And it's one of the most difficult positions to assess. I feel like with what we have in talent, we could definitely build that Niners team around Jared Goff and then achieve something like that. I'm like, I really
The
like
trick is you got to not pay him then.
Mhm. Well, it
And
depends.
that's the hard part, because if
Here's
he
the
wants
thing, though.
$40 million a year, it ain't gonna work.
Here's the thing, though. If you build the Niners, and I'm using this as an example, but you can win with Brock
Right.
Purdy. It doesn't matter.
Yes, you can.
It doesn't matter. So that's where
That's
I'm
why
at.
you got to get your quarterback this year, because
But you
it
can't
might
win
matter
with
next year.
You can't win with Jacoby Brissett. Thank you, Indianapolis. All right, so sorry for the little jag. I know that was not one of our talking points, but I'm falling more and more into the camp of build the team again. And I'm going to make a silly example. If you build the Niners team through the draft this year with all those picks, right? Let's just say you do that. You don't even touch. You get a free agent quarterback for a discount or whatever. You build your team. You could hand out every one of next year's draft picks to get your quarterback, because you've got your team and it's young and they're on the contract and you're a destination for a lot of people. I'm not as scared. I mean, the Rams did it, right? They haven't had a first round pick since they got Jared Goff, right?
Jared Goff was the last one.
Yeah. And I mean, they've won a Super Bowl since then. They've done a lot of work. There's a lot of ways to build a team. And I'm not saying give away all your draft picks, obviously, but there is a lot of stuff that can be done. And I'm leaning more towards, I really like the model that I'm seeing in San Fran, because I think it's sustainable over a long term better. So there you go. I'm throwing out stuff. We'll talk about that over the
They did trade up for their quarterback too, and it hasn't mattered, which is very weird. That's going to be one of the storylines. Like one or two of those quarterbacks won't be back in San Francisco next year, and what happens to them is going to be very interesting. And we'll have time to sort through that, because the Lions are going to get roped into the Trey Lance talks if they do decide to move on from Trey Lance, because of what Brad Holmes said about Trey Lance.
Yep.
And we know that Brad Holmes liked Trey Lance a lot.
Yep.
Probably not enough that he would have taken him over Panay, but with that next finagling, like if he was still been there, like there would have been some opportunity to move up there. And so that's a conversation for another time. But foreshadowing things. But one of the things, and I talked about this on the Huge Show yesterday, the ability to acquire quarterbacks via trade or release, or however it's going to, is a dynamic that didn't exist even 3 years ago. And it has changed the way that you have to approach your team building and your off-season work. And that's going to be something I hope that Brad is out in front of, because he's been part of an organization that did it. And John Dorsey was as well, by the way. He was the general manager. He actually didn't want to draft Patrick Mahomes. Oops. But he was the guy that wanted Baker Mayfield over Josh Allen and Josh Rosen. And who else was in that draft? There was somebody. Oh, Sam Darnold. Baker was his guy. Baker will not be coming to Detroit. Baker Mayfield is not a guy that you want as your backup quarterback, because he will not. It's just not in his DNA. It's not who he is. That cross that one off.
Yeah. Oh God, the Duke is back. He even created a new account to come in. He's so desperate, but he's happy his mom taught him how to play a rusty trombone. Okay, let's go on.
I don't understand the heckling or hate watching. We talked about this extensively off air a couple of months ago. Like, why the hell would you watch if you don't like it? Like, I don't get that. And they watch more. It's the old Howard Stern axiom. People who like Stern listen for an hour. People who hate him listen to all three.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's weird. I don't get that. I used to love the Stern show, man. Back when he first came on and across the country. He was on in Cleveland, was one of his first markets in the mid 90s. And I was driving all the time. I drove 200,000 miles in a year and a half, almost entirely within the state of Ohio, listening to Howard Stern and then Jim Rome. That was like my day. That was my entertainment before satellite radio, back before when my car still had a tape player in it.
All right, let's keep going here. I know, Riz, you got to get some sleep, so I want to talk about Jonah
I
Jackson.
do.
He wants to
Yes.
stay, and he wants to stay big time.
He wants to stay and get his money now. Is the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Paul Harvey, because he's not up. His contract. He's got another season under contract. So this is a situation where he is trying to jump ahead and say, "Hey, before you pay some of these other guys, pay me." That's one of the issues that comes up with having a good football team. We're not used to this. This is a different dynamic. We're going to have to, you're going to have to wade through it. But I do think that Mike Disner has a very good feel for these things. I do know that John Dorsey has a good feel for that sort of thing. And this is a lot of it is agent placation. A lot of it is negotiation in public. But yeah, the long and short of it is he absolutely does want to be back, but he wants to get his money this year. And remember, the other guy who started at guard is up as well. They're not going to pay both of them. So this is him basically saying, it's not him saying it's him or me, but it's kind of him saying, you want me more than you want him, right? That's the dynamic that's at play.
Yeah. All right. So Jonah Jackson, absolutely. I'm telling you, Pat D, my man. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think Jonah's one of those guys that you're going to see stays with the team there is a camaraderie and a brotherhood in that room, that line. Those guys, this is so let me even go back beyond the
family
line. Yeah, they absolutely 100% are. This team, and I think I said it on the show, but I want to make sure I say it again because it's so important. This team is going to go on, and it looks like they are poised to really build long-term success and make some serious runs as a team. I want people to remember this year, though, and this group of guys, because this is the team that turned the corner for the Lions. These are the guys that put it out there, built the foundation, the culture, bought in, and set up what this Detroit Lions team is. This family of guys this year, this love, this willingness, like with Kaminsky and Jonah, to come back. And it's the coaching, it's the front office, it's the whole thing. It's one of the key pieces, I think, that's going to feed the long-term success of the Detroit Lions is this culture and this sense of family, and the idea that people are willing to take a little less to stay. It says a lot about where we're at. If a guy goes out there like Jonah Jackson did and says, I want to stay with this team, this is where I want to be, that puts him in a little bit of a negotiating disadvantage. Agents hate that. There's 5 things agents hate. This, you'll never believe this one. Agents freaking hate that because it takes away negotiating power from them. But players,
giving your leverage up,
are willing to give up that leverage because it means that much to them. And I really think there's a lot to be said for what this team has. And Jonah Jackson will be back. He will be back with this team. We will see a new contract, an extension.
Beyond 2023. Like he's under contract through 2023. Yep. He'll be here beyond that. I have very, very, very little doubt about that. Yeah.
100%.
And so one of the things that just we have to add in here, there are times when agents forget that they work for the players and not vice versa. And we know who those agents are. We saw one not hold the door for his wife and her baby walking through, which I graciously did. And she looked at me like, oh my God, you're my Messiah. And get this slick suited dirtbag away from me. That was good times.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jonah, I actually know who Jonah's agent is. They're aware of that dynamic. They will get it done. It's not a case where he's going to have to pull rank. But it does mean that you do have to make some choices and prioritize who you want to pay, who you don't want to pay. Like I've said it. So Chris, you know this, and longtime listeners and readers of mine know this. When a player is a free agent, I consider them completely off the team. I do not take that they're coming back. So right now, DJ Chark is no longer a Detroit Lion. Evan Brown is no longer a Detroit Lion.
Yep.
All those, Deshaun Elliott, Alex Anzalone, John Kaminsky, they are not Detroit Lions right now, in my eyes.
Nope.
Now they certainly can come back, but until they're back,
it's dealer's
they're
choice.
not on the team.
It's dealer's
Don't
choice.
forget that they're not on the team.
Yep. All right.
That's the only way I can mentally process that. I have to do it that way.
You have to, yeah, because they're a different compensation kind of factor, but these players that are free agents are still, they're part of the pool of available players, period. And they have conversations, and they like Kaminsky is a great guy. Will they wait till after the draft and see what happens in the draft before they sign him? They may with some guys, they may. It's and they know, and
some they
won't. The Lions, right, no, absolutely. But the Lions are a team that's going to be straight up with their guys. They're not going to lead them along and create that kind of manifest, ugliness. Just like Kalif, letting him kind of force his way into those and push his way into those incentives. Right? They gave it to him. They let him and earn them and deserve them. They're not a team. They believe in that kind of brotherhood, and you get a chance, you deliver, you do what you have to do, you give to this team, and you will be able to reap the benefits of that. And you just be successful, keep at it, all the things that coach talked about at the very, very beginning of Hard Knocks, as far as the rules. Deliver on those and be talented, and you can have a long career in Detroit. That's that. All right, a little bit of mock draft talk, Riz. There's there's a new I don't say new
so
name,
many of them. There's so many.
Christian Gonzalez is bouncing around that number 6 spot a lot. I'm hearing that from a lot of places. What's your thinking as to the Lions thinking? Because I don't think it's an ugly pick by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh yeah, he's definitely skilled. He's got ball skills. Proved it at 2 different. I like the fact he went to Colorado and was really good at Colorado, a crap program.
Yeah.
Went to Oregon, challenged himself, and rose to the challenge. He's a superb athlete. He's got a lot. There's a lot to like there, man. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as like being an all-around cover corner, he's not the best in this draft. Devon Witherspoon is. But the Devon Witherspoon is 6 foot 187, I want to say, with a somewhat educated knowledge there that he's gunning for 190 at the combine. But he is in fact 6 feet tall. I do know people that are at the training facility where he's at. So he's not Bryce Young size. He's not 5'9.5" or 5'10.5", and 100 and. I love the fact that they said they want Bryce Young at 210. No, you don't. You really don't. If you get him to 185, that's the best Bryce Young you're going to get. But that we don't have to worry about that because he's going to be long gone by 6, and that's a good thing, by the way. Christian Gonzalez gets mentioned a lot. Witherspoon gets mentioned a lot at 6, but the last week there's been a new
Witherspoon
name.
Will last till 19?
No.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, what I will say, it's a phenomenal year to need specifically an outside cornerback.
Yes.
That happens to be probably the biggest need on the Lions defense. That or a nose tackle. You don't draft a nose tackle in the first round. You just don't. Right. It's stupid. But you can draft him in the second or the third. And I got to clarify here. Aleem McNeil, they want him to be a 3-tech. They do not want him to be the 1-tech solely anymore. They want to have the guys that can play both to move them around. The Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork combination, if you will, where both those guys could play either spot. That's what they want. That is Aaron Glenn. He was on that team. So that's where they're going with that. So they need that guy, but that's not a first round priority for them unless it happens to be Jalen Carter, and it sure sounds like at this juncture that he's not going to be there. He might not be there at 2. So beyond that, there's not another defensive tackle that you draft before the Vikings pick. Basically, there's just not. So you're looking at an outside corner, and it's a great year to need them. There's so many of them. I watched a guy the other day. I'm like, I didn't even hear about this guy. He's ranked in like the 250s on a couple of the sites. I'm like, that guy's like, he can start. Like, he's really good. And like, he's not even the best corner on his own college team. Like, there's a lot of dudes, man. So that's where you get into positional scarcity, positional abundance. And that's why there's another name that has popped up at number 6 a lot lately, and that's Tyree Wilson, the big ass defensive edge from Texas Tech. And he got a lot of love to the Lions this week as the number 6 pick. And then you're getting your cornerback du jour, whether it's because Witherspoon. You don't see a lot of Cam Smith because he's a zone guy. He's not a good scheme fit. He's just not, and they're aware of that. There's a couple other guys. I'm too tired to think of it. One name to know, and it was a guy that he went in the 20s in Mel Kiper's first mock draft, but the dude from Maryland, and I'm Deontay, and I'm looking. I can see him. I know his number. He should be a consideration at 18 because he is of that ilk as well. So again, you're getting that. But Tyree Wilson, man, I have some concerns about him. He's 6'6", 278 pounds. He is coming off of an injury. He's got 36 and a half inch arms. It might actually be bigger than that. His hands are like 10 3/4. The thing is, when you're that big and that long, it takes some time to get moving. And this is a more precision timing based defense. So I'm not sure that he's the best scheme fit, but damn, he's a good football player. Yeah. He reminds me some of like a heavy, like the heavy handed defensive end that is a great facilitator for the outside linebacker, like James Houston whipping around to the outside, setting an edge, having Kaminsky or Hutchinson. He's an interesting guy. I want to see him more. I was disappointed that he's not going to be in Mobile. He will be at the Combine, and I'll get a chance to check him out in person and see him there. But he's getting a lot of momentum. Remember, it's early. At this time last year, thanks to Josina Anderson, everybody and their brother thought that the Lions were taking Kayvon Thibodeau at this point. There was, and I have the poll to prove it, the number one fan choice, number one at this time last year for the Lions, at number 2 was Georgia linebacker Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
He went to second round, third round to Philadelphia and didn't play because TJ Edwards is awesome. That's why he didn't play. But so we're I don't want to say we're like drunk monkeys throwing darts right now when we do our mock drafts, but there's a certain level of, and this is one of the reasons why I talked about the groupthink thing earlier. There's a lot of groupthink that goes on. There's a lot of, we're all peeing into the same urinal type thing. And sometimes you got to flush that and find the big mint elsewhere.
So they're getting asked, what do you guys think about JL Skinner at safety? He's going to be at Senior Bowl. I kind of like this kid.
He's
good. A lot of people talking like second round, late second round. I think he's going to climb. I think
he's a little later than that.
Late second round, early third. Yeah. I think he's going to climb to mid second, maybe even a little higher. I think this kid's got a lot of talent.
So the Lions are at what, 49, 48? Yeah. The Dolphins thing screws me up that the Dolphins don't have a pick and there's only 31 on the field. Stupid Tom Brady. By the way, Tom Brady, worst. He had the most interception luck. This is something that I put up on Lionswire today. The Lions were one of the luckiest teams in the league of opponents dropping interceptions, opponents dropping passes, opponents missing field goals and fumble recoveries.
For once,
Tom Brady and Daniel Jones tied for the most luck on interceptable passes. Jared Goff was 4th, so he got some pretty good luck on that. But the fact that Tom Brady was that, and then you looked at the other thing, and this was in the Slack today. This was Chris and I arguing virtually. Tom Brady was so Jared Goff under pressure in the threshold that was listed. It was 250 passes. Jared Goff was 33rd in QB rating. He was 27th in win value added. Tom Brady was like well below him on both.
Yeah.
So it sort of tells you that to me told me more that Tom Brady needs to be more done than a lot of people think he is. If you watch their last game, he wasn't good.
But I mean, he wasn't. But there were so many freaking drops in that game. Like Mike Evans can't catch a ball all of a sudden. Godwin can't catch a ball all of a sudden. Can't run a route.
That was rough.
If Godwin goes, whoever takes him, if they trade him or he lands somewhere else, you would be an idiot to sign him to your team. I think. I mean, he's a great talent, but I think he's done. I think it's just not in him anymore.
He's got Dallas Cowboys written all over him.
He sure does. He sure does, man. All right. Let's see. A lot to talk about. We're going to talk all draft all next week. We'll get into that a lot more. Mock drafts. This is a great time early because these things are going to change, but it's a great way to learn about these players, and you're going to see them on other teams. You're going to see them as we play them in the years going onward. Get to know them now. It's actually a lot of fun. It's a great way to spend some off season. You kind of think, you use your simulators, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun to kind of put that kind of stuff together. But we'll have a ton of draft. Like I said, we will have a show about the draft on the regs. I want to get to the last topic for today. Riz is starting to fade on us a little bit here. What is ChrisDust? What is ChrisDust? There's information of different kinds that's available. Some of it's speculated, and we'll talk about it. We believe
you control information.
We believe, we think, we're putting things together. We speculate. Everybody speculates. It looks like this could happen, right? And we do that, and we let you know when we're speculating.
We do. We let you know when it's speculation and when we know it. I'm very clear about that. You are as well. Yep. I will tell you what I think, and I will tell you what I know. And if you don't think that I know what I know, I would point you back to last year and look at the stuff that I wrote pre-draft at Lions Wire. Every damn thing came true. Every single one of them.
Yep. We just had a big dust storm in the
yes. ChrisDust. This was Chris. This was Chris at the Ambassadors Club at Delta or whatever the heck it is. I don't fly enough to be high roller.
Sky Club. And Sky Club. Hanging up there, getting ready for my flight. I mean, I was out last week. I'm home for 2 days and it's off to Mobile. It's crazy. But got a lot of information. A lot I can't share. I shared some. I mean, there's stuff I can't even share in the Slack. But there's some really, really good stuff. I'll share some of this with folks now, and it's just a little bit, a little taste, just so you know, and then you guys can, take it for what you want. It's not been announced to anybody yet, but I think it's going to be Monday, particularly because of some other things going on. And the fact that also, in addition to that the Senior Bowl is this week, and then need to get down there for that. Watch for some new coaching staff announcements on Monday. I believe it's going to be Monday. Like I said, that day could change. There's somebody you all know that's going to surprise you. I'm just telling you, it's really interesting. It's going to be good. So keep your eyes open on that. Let's see. There's going to be some shuffling going on.
Keeping with the former player theme.
Some shuffling inside the coaching. I will not confirm nor deny. Some shuffling inside the coaching ranks, including changing some existing contracts. It's just some normal stuff that goes on. The folks in Slack, like I say, know the names. But I'll tell you this much: the Lions really, really want AG to stay, and I know he's going to Arizona for his second interview. They recognize that he'd be a lot better perceived as a coach with more talent. They recognize where they are and what they have, and that's one of the reasons why I think they're really, really going to work on that. I think you're going to see some significant action in that place. If AG doesn't go, right, and it's up to AG. But if you think about it, we've talked about this. Year one, the first thing they had to do is get Goff weapons, and we knew Goff with weapons would be able to perform. He did. Now AG, who's much, much closer to MCDC, he waited his turn to get his guys because they wanted to get Goff set up. This is the year of the defense for the Detroit Lions, and this part I'm putting a little bit of speculation in, but I think it's the relationships that have put there. You watch this year, I am speculating they're going to go all over the place on defense. The draft room and the scouts, they're so tight-lipped. There's like no three people, right, to know what's going on there in there for real. There's all kinds of other smoke. There's all kinds of canary traps, other things going on there. Anyone that tells you they know what's going on inside that room is bullshitting you. They're straight telling you bullshit because that real information isn't getting out. I just know they want AG to stay and they want to get him some talent. They're going to be putting a lot of talent on defense this year. They absolutely they will, and that's just you can look at it and see that from the outside. You don't need inside information for that.
And keep in mind, it's not just the draft either. Free agency does come first, and at one specific position, it's going to come before the draft. Where's the beef? To quote the old Wendy's ad, the beef is coming in free agency.
Yes. Yep. Yes. A lot of arguments.
Don't know which slice of beef, but it'll be beef.
I'm like elevating these things to a level of obfuscation, but a lot of the arguments that fans are having about Swift are going on inside the building as well, because the guy is just really, really fantastic. But availability is an important ability too, and it's maddening. They're extremely conflicted. I think how things play out are going to determine, in free agency, in the draft, and where things go will determine. But they really, really like Swift a lot because he can do things that nobody else can do. He can absolutely do things that nobody else can do, and if he's healthy,
he does them 2 or 3 times a year is the problem, and that's been consistent with him going back to Georgia.
Yep,
and they're aware of that too. You know that, Chris. I know that. They're aware of that too. It's a very big offseason for him, even more so than last offseason when Deuce basically challenged his manhood, and it didn't always work out all that well. It's interesting because he's one of those guys, and they have a couple other guys that are like this, that don't perform as well as they need to when they're not 100%, and nobody's ever 100%. And he falls into that category. This is like we've seen again. This is a guy we've seen. He doesn't take his shirt off. He wears compression all the time. Like it's not hiding the muscles, man. Like there's no question. He is well built. He's stacked. He puts the time in it in the weight room. He puts the conditioning in. Like there's no doubt about that. None. He's got to learn to play through stuff. And these are the conversations that they are indeed having. Like, do they have to get somebody that can push him? Do they want a direct competitor for him, direct insurance for him if he is still the same DeAndre Swift, where he runs for 150 yards in the first game and then doesn't get that in the next 6? That happened 2 years ago. Like they are having those conversations. Keep in mind, Jamal, not on the team. He's a free agent. Justin Jackson, not on the team, free agent. It's a good year to need free agent running backs, both in Detroit and around the league.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot.
They're aware. They're aware of that.
Yep. They're absolutely stacked. It's incredible. So, and again, they know inside the building how big of a destination Detroit is. It's 100%. I mean, it is a destination for players. Players love what they're seeing here and love to see where things are going. Just one.
And they're telling their friends.
All the speculation in the chat has been wrong so far, and I'm telling you, this is going to be another one of those things where, you guys will see. I will tell you where to go. It is dated, time stamped in a way that I can't change it, and I will tell you guys where to go to show you that I had the info, and you can tell me it isn't a lucky guess finally. All right, so there's that. You want to see the ChrisDust or the ChrisDust in person? Get to the Slack, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. It's a little $6 a month. Will get you access to that.
I'm catching up on the chat. Y'all are wrong. Good guesses though. Oh, by the way, I just see this, and we do need to mention this. Rest in peace, Jesse Lemonier.
Yeah.
He passed away this week. It's tragic. 25 years old.
Way too early.
It's too young, man.
Yeah.
Way too early. He had a girlfriend. I think she's either pregnant or just had a baby not long ago. It's awful, man.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
hard times, man.
Yep. Can the Lions negotiate with the free agents before the free agency period opens, or do they have to wait? I don't know the actual details on that. I think there has to be an ability to work.
You can sign your own. This is one where agents really don't like it, because then you're completely giving away your leverage. And this would be the case. And I do think that there will be one signing specifically. And I'll put this in the Slack because I have a pretty good idea. This is going to happen very soon. Of one player who will be back because he just has no interest in going anywhere else.
Yep.
But like some of the other guys, then you're getting the legal tampering period. So the combine is the week that February ends going into March. The days after that, the Mondays through Wednesday, is the legal tampering period, and then free agency starts. And one of the biggest reasons why I go to the combine every year has nothing to do with the draft. It's because that's where I learn where free agency is going.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see literally the negotiations. They have happened at tables and next to me in restaurants.
Yeah.
John Ledyard and I saw the Lions actually agreed to terms with the guy before it was legal. They signed him.
Well, I think the whole Stafford deal was something like that. And you got what's the short guy on Fox, bald guy? Why can't I remember his name? He's the insider.
Glazer.
Yeah, Glazer. Thank you. Oh yeah, I'm the one that got Stafford over. I said, "Oh, you're both here. Come and see McVay." I mean, look, guys get that insider info because they're useful. Jay Glazer and his story was very useful. Okay, I'm just saying that was whatever it was, but in the end, they got what they wanted. I think we're going to get what we want out of this, and we'll move on, and I'll be happy. So. There you go. All right. Don't forget about fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. Get all your Lions merch, your Red Wings merch, your Pistons merch, your Tigers merch, your college merch.
I'll be at the Pistons game tomorrow night. My son and I are going to watch the Pistons play the Rockets. The Rockets are his team. They're only in town once, so we'll be there. Well,
they do overnight shipping. Fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. Get yourself a jersey. Show up looking in style. Great way to support the show by doing something you would do anyway. Also, Amazon, anything you buy on Amazon, go through amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. They give us a little kickback. Doesn't cost you more. And again, another way to support the show by doing what you do anyway at amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. Also, how did I forget? Please hit that like button. Like button. We're like a third of the likes of the people watching right now. Just click it on the bottom. You're watching. You can do that. You got the time. Little clicky helps us out. And the subscribe button.
It's right.
The subscribe button will get you all the information you need from Senior Bowl that pops up. As I keep telling you, it's going to be hot and heavy. We're on the move. Yeah. We're not going to have as many times to move our thumbs to tweet and everything else to let you know what's coming. It just shows up. That button will get you notified, and the subscribe and that bell get you notified when that stuff's coming in. So there you go. All right, Riz, don't forget about some Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast, $5 a month. We talked about it. Gets you Slack, the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet, and the ChrisDust, the ChrisDust, all the good inside info. Also, let's not forget about Twitter at Jeff Risdon and at DET Lions Podcast, at DET Lions Podcast. We are all absolutely pants free. I have to admit, I fell off the wagon last night. I left Philly to come here. It was super cold. I actually wore pants. First time in a long time I don't play and I wore pants. I apologize. I have to go without any pants, double no pants tomorrow to make up for it. Give us a call.
It was 12 here this morning when I woke up, so I wore pants today.
Oh man. Let's see. Give us a call on Skype, Detroit Lions Podcast, or call us on the Lions line at 248-782-8384.
Please do this. We love the calls.
248.
Leave us the message, man. It's awesome.
248 rub you fug. I mean, who wouldn't want to call that number and see what's coming out the other side? Speaking of coming out the other side, be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast. Why, Riz? Why would we do that?
Because you want me to come into your ear holes automatically. You know you do.
Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're your Detroit Lions and new Reddit connection. Thank you all for listening.